All right, welcome back. Let's start that over. All right, welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, to a daily recap. I am Breaky CBK, of course, and today is January 6th, 2018, a Saturday here, and I am still, once again, here in D.C. for the Captain's Draft Tournament, that is, and we have day one in the books of the main event, at least. So day two starting pretty shortly here, in about an hour from now as I'm doing this recording. So, again, I'm super excited. Today's a big day. As a Complexity fan, they play today. They play against Vici Gaming today. OG versus Empire also happening today. And then the winners play each other, and then eventual winner of that moves on to the finals, which then takes place tomorrow. With that in mind, we did have 4 teams duke it out yesterday, ultimately going down to 1. So, kicking it off here on the daily recap, wanted to, of course, recap that. By the way, as a preface to this daily recap, again, there's plenty to talk about. Dota 2, this is why I think the daily recap is an important feature, important content piece even to have in the Dota 2 scene especially, because there really is so much going on. This is why I tried to do this in the past, and, things kind of came up. I eventually went to the podcast route of the weekly podcast, and as fun as that was, and, it definitely was some good content, I think people would agree, but there really is just so much happening daily that to wait a whole week, even a couple of weeks to do a podcast, you're almost overlooking a lot of some important stuff and some stuff that could be worthy to bring up each day in and a day out. So again, that's one of these daily recaps. Plenty to talk about today. All right, though, enough rambling on. Let's go ahead and get into it. Let's go ahead and recap the first day of the Captain's Draft Tournament. So Evil Geniuses, Team Secret, Pain Gaming, and Mineski all duked it out yesterday. Ultimately, spoiler alert, Secret did advance on to the finals as they took out Mineski in the semifinals. But again, looking back at how they got there in the first place, Mineski, they went 2-0 over Pain Gaming. It was a very quick start. Frankly, as expected, Pain Gaming, simply put, the really only team in this event that just didn't feel like they belonged. And unfortunately, this has been the case for South America in a lot of these minor and major events. It is what it is, though. Obviously, the region itself is still much newer to competing on the international level as these teams together. And with the whole new circuit and everything now being a region that is necessary to bring to your event, as time moves on, maybe that'll change down the line here in the season, if not into next season. But again, simply put, they did not look like they belonged. Mineski handled them pretty easily, 2-0 in that series. I will admit, obviously, I was there at the event. I got to the event as the first draft was starting. There was a lot of people to meet up with, though. And so I was mainly during the first series doing a lot of catching up with people, talking with buddies, meeting up with people like the Complexity team themselves, having to be there, Beef included. I also made a point to go to a couple of Q&A sessions, which if you check on my YouTube and my social media in general, I did post. I actually went to the who was it? OG and Empire Q&A. They actually did one together, and I posted that on my YouTube channel, the full video and the audio. Audio's not the greatest. Again, I'm just simply using my phone to record it, but you could check it out if you like. Again, on my Breaky CPK YouTube. I also then did an audio-only recording where I went a lot closer up, and the video also was just a massive file, so I figured I would just do audio-only for the Complexity Q&A session, and I think that did turn out a little bit better. Again, it is audio-only, but if you know Complexity enough, you can tell who's talking, and I think they were actually pretty cool sessions. I got to admit, I wasn't knowing what to expect going into them, but the team did a really good job of answering questions from the community. It was literally anyone could ask any questions. Obviously, we all tried to keep it Dota 2 focused. There were some Han questions that popped in there, not necessarily from me, but that was kind of amusing. We had a good time with that. Check that out if you like. So I was doing that, especially during the first series. So I didn't necessarily get to catch the most of it, just sitting there watching it. But I do remember just every time I kind of looked over just to kind of glance, see how it was progressing, Mineski, again, was just handling Pain Gaming. It didn't seem like Pain Gaming belonged. And ultimately, Mineski took that series 2-0. The first game I do remember, Dark Gorilla was played by Ice Ice Ice, and oh my god, did he wreck with that hero. This hero, when she gets good farm early on, she can become an insanely strong core with that shadow, the shadow form that she goes into, then coming out of it, the huge burst damage. that she does. So, again, they moved on to the semifinals looking good. So my predictions were looking pretty strong at that point. Then the biggest series of the first round, no doubt, took place. Evil Geniuses versus Team Secret. This one I made a point to watch as much as possible, of course, for obvious reasons. Chilling with a couple of buddies at the event. Shout out to SA, by the way, who I hung out with quite a bit. He knows me from the .P community, and it's been a fun guy to hang out with, not only here, but even online. A great guy just in general to play some Dota 2 with. But back on point here. It started off with Team Secret taking the first game, and what ended up being quite the grind, actually. Evil Geniuses was ahead earlier on. The draft was, as you would expect in Captain's Draft, very interesting. More so, I think, coming out from Evil Geniuses, especially who was playing what. They actually had, it was Arteezy playing a mid Sven paired up with the Lich. They had Fear on a safe lane Underlord, and they had Sumail playing the off lane Pugna. And again, it was definitely pretty lane dependent. They mainly did the Sven Lich mid because it was matched up what ended up being a mid 1 Invoker, who I gotta say I called. I not only called the Invoker pick, but I called the Quas Wex build that he did end up going. So pat myself on the back, or that's more of a brush my shoulders off. Anyways, I did call that. So he went the Quas Wex build. He was shit early on, as you would expect. A Quas Wex Invoker against a Lich support Sven. Oh, he got absolutely nothing early on in the game. I think he was level 3 at a point when Sven was already 6 or 7, and Lich was like level 4 or 5. So, again, his start was atrocious. The only saving grace was actually Ace on the Juggernaut in the off lane. He was doing very well. He got some support, I believe it was really from the roster early on. They made sure to get farm on him. Razor was doing all right as well, being played by... Who was Razor being played by, actually? Fata? I guess it was Fata. It would have had to be Fata at that point, yeah. So Razor was being played by Fata in the safe lane. He did so. They went for a very mid-game build. They went drums on multiple heroes. They went Sage and Yasha on both the Razor as well as the Juggernaut even. So he didn't go the Battle Fury route. He went SNY. I found that a little curious because actually Evil Geniuses Sven Arteezy was getting insane farm early on, and he was doing a quad. He got a quad stack, and he was taking over net worth. He was looking stupid strong, and there was a point where he had the BKB, the Chrysalis, a Blink at like 25 minutes into the game, if not even that. So, Evil Geniuses did have a bit of a lead, but it was specifically at the bottom lane. I remember the fight, and there's clips of it on Reddit as well, if you haven't checked it out. In fact, here, I could probably find the clip for you real quickly. I know it was up top here. I should have had this up before, but... It was an insane play to get, here we go, to essentially, I mean, you'll see in the clip, but Fear's Underlord, here we go, they were pushing bottom lane, and at this point, EG, I mean, this was a very even game still, you see 45 minutes in, they're going to push tier 3. I remember watching that and just kind of reacted like I did right there. Like, here we go. And then you see him get it forced the other way. He turns down just enough. He gets force staffed away. We're not even 100% sure who force staffed him. They have multiple heroes with it, whether it was Earthshaker or Invoker. It might have been a double force staff. But the point is that pushed him out. They cleaned them up. And that is what really set the tone for the victory. Because I think it was like 3 minutes after that, they actually won the game. Did Team Secret. And again, that ended up being very important because Secret, so they ended up winning the first game. The second game, Evil Geniuses bodied Team Secret quite a bit in the second game. Secret's strategy, their draft just could not come online. The lanes got dominated. And you had to think after the second game especially, this was going to be Evil Geniuses with how close they were winning the first game. On top of that, they were looking good going into the third game, and we were possibly going to see Secret knocked out. But the third game happened. Ended up being drawn out once again. Another very close game. A lot of back and forth battle. The Skywrath, I do remember him having pretty significant impact throughout this game, actually. I believe it was being played by... Was it played by Puppey? I'm actually blanking on who played the Skywrath mage. But his zoning presence earlier on in the game was definitely felt. It's played by Yapster. So Yapster played him. Puppey played the... that's right. Puppey played the Vengeful Spirit this game. So he did a great job of zoning out in the mid lane, especially. Shadow Fiend was struggling early on as a result of that. Very close game. Ended up going 46 minutes. Ultimately, Ace's Luna, though, she just started getting massive farms. She eventually got the butterfly item. I remember being the key, where once she got that, Gyrocopter wasn't able to get the BKB, or not the MKB, until much after that. And by then, their base was already destroyed by the glaive bounces. And there was also, mid one playing the Pugna, his Nether Blast was doing insane. He was constantly split pushing against the Evil Geniuses. So EG was getting some picks and winning some fights, but it seemed like always Pugna was just off somewhere else then, pushing lanes in and dropping the racks and dropping tier 3 towers on top of that. So that led to the victory, though, and Secret did advance on to the semifinals. Again, honestly, a pretty impressive performance from EG. They ultimately only played 6 games in total of this minor, so it's hard to truly say. And being Captain's Draft, like I said going into this, I wasn't going to judge Evil Geniuses either way. If they happen to go undefeated through the finals, then then you could probably react to that, but ultimately, either way, I wasn't going to judge Evil Geniuses. They're a very new team still with this new roster and the new positions and everything. This was a Captain's Draft tournament, a very simple format. I take nothing from this when looking at Evil Geniuses. I think we're going to have to give it a couple of months to truly determine if this new EG roster and position-wise is going to work. Point is, Secret moved on. Mineski versus Secret, so it's set up as I kind of expected. But, man, Secret bodied Mineski. I'm saying bodied. Been watching fighting game scene, I guess. They dominated Mineski in this series, frankly. It was 2-0. I'm not just saying that because I'm looking at the times here. I do remember watching this series. Secret just looked like the better team. And when it came to the draft especially, Mineski's fault, the casters were kind of talking about it, and a real quick touch on that. It is Moonduck, and they're known for being, hilarious, and they had some great segments. Their Action Slacks, I thought, was doing a fantastic job of being his typical self, being the host. They made it fun. I did find it a little bit awkward at times because the players were very close by, and obviously during the draft, they have their headphones off as they're kind of huddled up talking with each other, which happens all the time. There's no sound boost or anything, so they 100% can hear the casters. The casters were flaming some of these picks pretty hard. Specifically the Death Prophet pick, they were flaming it nonstop. Not only after the first game it was drafted by Mineski, but and then the second game they brought it once it got drafted again. They're making points like, oh well, shit hero, they lose now. Like, there's something about that was bothering me a little bit. Again, specifically because the players could actually hear them. I understand that is kind of the tone that Moonduck has, but this was a minor event. This is supposed to be at least a little bit of a step up when it comes to that quote-unquote professionalism. I do think that Moonduck has a lot to learn from this event, and in fact, I was talking with Sajidine, who does a lot of the organizing for them, and it definitely helped organize a lot of the players, getting them there, and the event itself. I was talking with her quite a bit and she was mentioning to me, they're taking a lot of mental notes on this being their first minor, this being their first big LAN, really, that what they could do differently. I was going back and forth with her, but it's stuff like that, and I don't know if any of them are going to watch this, but it really is stuff like that where I think that they really should keep in mind, at least for their future events, when they're just flat out trash talking. They're like going beyond trash talking. It's not like saying, oh, the Death Prophet, I don't really know. Once again, it was more like they're calling it a shit hero and how they've lost the draft because of that. And now with all of that said, Death Prophet was not a high impact hero in either of these games. So it's not that I disagree with what they're saying, because I actually kind of do agree. It's just the way they were saying it. Point is, Secret, they played it very well. The second game draft especially was really interesting. They ended up running a support Wraith King with a safe lane Slark, which they picked up earlier on in the game. And then they had the Medusa to finish it off, though, with their final pick, actually. And I think that kind of caught Mineski off guard, because they were probably almost... They saw the Wraith King and the Slark, and they're like, oh, those are the two cores. They're going to go for a 4 support last or something. No, they went the Medusa, and you could just tell it kind of just threw Mineski off, especially after losing the first game already. And again, Secret took that 2-0 pretty handily, advancing on to the finals as a result. That sets up today of our next 4 teams. So real quickly, I think I actually did already give my predictions for this, didn't I? Okay, well, just real quickly then. I don't want to spend too much longer on this, but we got Complexity over Vici Gaming, duh. And then OG over Team Empire. I am going to say OG over Complexity. I think another third, fourth place finish for Complexity is going to happen right here. OG, this is just their format. They are on a bit of a streak recently. Of course, winning the recent minor that they participated in. I'm forgetting blanking on the name now, but they did very well there. And I think it's going to be a Secret versus OG finals, which will not be surprising at all if that's the case. And we'll see, obviously, what happens there come tomorrow. All right, so that's the Captain's Draft event. Like I mentioned, though, there's still a couple of other things that are worth going over. Let's start with this one real quickly. Just a quick tidbit on this. As yesterday mentioned, the Galaxy Battles news that popped out. Virtus Pro had already announced that they're pulling from the event because of Valve dropping their sponsorship and the circuit points and everything. I expected other teams to follow, and we saw that a bit yesterday as well. Secret as well as Team Liquid. It's actually Liquid first, and then later on even Secret officially announced that they are pulling out of the event. There's a couple of other teams that are on the list of teams that I would not be surprised if they too also pull out. Ones that come to mind: Evil Geniuses, OG. A lot of these Western teams, frankly. I could see an Optic Gaming sticking in there because, again, when you look at a team like Optic Gaming, the biggest difference is this is going to be their first minor that they're competing at, right? I want to say it's their first actual minor that they're competing at, yeah, because the Asus ROG event, that was not a minor or major. And again, I remember PPD even tweeting about that, how this sucked because it was their first one. Point is, even though there's no points on the line, it's still... Now, this is where it becomes tricky, though, because you have to say to yourself, if Valve is pulling all the sponsorship from Galaxy Battles, and they gave the reason on why, and that's understandable, but before all of this drama even happened, Fallout Gaming, which is the big sponsorship behind, or essentially the organizer behind Galaxy Battles, they have had some, let's just call it some shady things happen in the past with them with other events that they have ran, from not paying out teams to talent as well, to just having a lot of dysfunctional things going on with their events. You can look more into it if you like. I'm not going to make this daily recap about that. But just with all of these things circling around, again, especially for the Western teams, I really would not be surprised if, I guess that would be it, right? It would be Optic and Pain Gaming are the last two teams that are remaining after that I'm not as sure about. But yeah, Evil Geniuses and OG, I do not see them going to this event. Oh, and then there's Infamous, who actually got an invite as well. That's right. And it's unfortunate because it all goes back to the fans of the Philippines. They're the ones that are just so passionate and love Dota 2. And I got to experience that myself a couple of months ago. It sucks from that perspective. But from the perspective of these teams that are competing for a specific goal, ultimately to get to TIA, on top of just the organization itself, how Valve pulled out, that has to be raising some alarms. I really wouldn't be surprised if more drop out from the Western scene especially. And then if this event ultimately gets canceled, I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much, but man, these next several days are going to continue to be very interesting. So again, Secret and Liquid pull out as well officially. And then there's a couple more roster updates. We'll start with this one here real quickly. This is, we saw the other day, Forev left Immortals. It wasn't officially announced by Immortals, so again, that was a little interesting. But we found out now why. Because he parted ways, and we'll get to that in a second, but MSS Dota, he was one of these players that I've been insisting that has kind of been on the free agent list for a little bit right here, that he had to end up somewhere eventually. This guy's plenty of experience in the Dota 2 scene and a very, very solid, good offlane player. He joins him up with Immortals. So he joins up with the Koreans here. So you got the 4 Koreans and MSS Dota. Pretty fun stuff there. I think it's a solid pick, a solid replacement, no doubt. Obviously, a lot of people were bringing up the rumor of a possible Universe. Not the case here. Whether or not they already had this figured out before the Universe release happened, or, you know, if Universe has other plans, I would have to think they at least thought about that idea and talked with him, possibly. But again, MSS Dota, a very, very good player in his own right, and he ends up as a new 5th. The last bit of information, speaking of all these free agents coming out, a new team officially announced by Soxa Dota on his Twitter. How about this squad, man? We have Anna at the 1 position. Yep, that's right. Anna from the former OG team there. And, he went through a bit of that drama himself, but he's back on the scene. It's great to see that. A fantastic player, honestly. And I think was definitely underrated in a lot of ways when it came to last season and the success that OG did have. He was overlooked constantly by people. People looked at his faults more than what positives he had. Still a very young player. I think this is a huge pickup for them here. Going to be playing the 1. That's also an interesting change. Greg Dota, also known as Kaiser. He's a fantastic mid player out of the European region, formerly of Hellraisers and Planet Dog at this point. So that squad's kind of falling apart now because 3-3 recently, their offlane player going to Optic Gaming, of course, and now you have Kaiser moving on to this, what they're calling Team World right now. So you have Kaiser, you have Forev. There you go, Forev, as a result of him pulling out of Immortals. This is why it seems like he joins up with these guys. SVG, another free agent player that, again, dropped as the coach of Evil Geniuses. Another reason perhaps why he comes back as a player. He's also going to be the captain of the team. Not really surprised about that there. Has that experience, of course. So SVG in the 4 position, and then Saksa going to be playing the 5 position for this team as well. So that's the new full roster. And you do see him confirm right here. This is something that a lot of people were bringing up, what region they were going to be playing in, because they have players from all over the world. They are going to be playing in Europe, and I can't blame them there. If it came to choosing a specific region that I would want to play in, I think Europe has to be on top of that list, mainly because you have Secret and Liquid, who are going to be invited to a lot of these events already. Next tier is what? You got Kingwin, who is a very, very proven to be a very good squad going into the season. Outside of that, though, is there anyone I'm blatantly missing? There probably is OG. There you go. For some reason, I forget about OG because, again, they've had a rocky road. But yes, OG is up there as well. So you got OG and Kingwin. And then you have, it is fairly open. And this is a team that, if things kind of click, it reminds me of the Mid or Fee team a little bit, but at the same time, I think this has a lot more organization to it, a bit more experience overall, and I think their captain in SVG, who has been a proven captain and has been coaching, again, Evil Geniuses in the past, is a lot better up setup for this squad to be successful. So Team World, that could possibly change, of course, but that's what they're known as now. So, all right, I think we made it through the daily recap, guys. That's going to officially do it here for what is January 6th, 2018. Another day where there's a bit of information coming out. So it's I really am glad I'm doing these, and I've been getting some awesome feedback. With that in mind, guys, feel free to leave feedback on the comments below on my YouTube channel, as well as on my social media. Follow me at Twitter and Facebook, all over the place, including my Twitch as well, for those that are watching the live stream here. Thank you. Going to be wrapping up now. Daily recap, January 6th, 2018. Have a good night, guys. I'll see you next time.